The Age of Exploration and Colonization. The story of America truly begins to change in the late 15th and early 16th centuries, as European explorers crossed the oceans in search of new lands, wealth, and opportunities. The Age of Exploration was a time of adventure, danger, and discovery, fueled by curiosity, trade ambitions, and the desire to spread religion. For the people living in the Americas, these voyages would bring unprecedented encounters, challenges, and transformations. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, an Italian navigator sailing under the Spanish flag, made his famous journey across the Atlantic. Though he believed he had reached islands off the coast of Asia, he had in fact arrived in the Caribbean. This moment marked the beginning of centuries of European exploration in the Americas. Columbus and other early explorers were drawn by reports of gold, spices, and other riches, but they also sought to spread Christianity and expand their nation's power. The first European settlements in the Americas were often small and precarious. The Spanish, eager to expand their empire, established colonies throughout the Caribbean, Mexico, and South America. In 1519, Hernán Cortés led an expedition that eventually toppled the powerful Aztec Empire in present-day Mexico, demonstrating both the technological advantage of Europeans and the devastating effects of disease on indigenous populations. Likewise, Francisco Pizarro conquered the Inca Empire in South America, securing vast wealth for Spain. While the Spanish focused on Central and South America, the English, French, and Dutch were drawn to the northern regions of the continent. The French primarily explored the St. Lawrence River, the Great Lakes, and the Mississippi River, establishing fur trading posts and alliances with Native American tribes. The Dutch founded New Netherland, centered on present-day New York primarily for trade. The English, however, sought permanent settlements, aiming to create new homes for their growing populations and to expand their influence. In 1607, Jamestown became the first permanent English settlement in North America. The early years were extremely difficult, marked by disease, famine, and conflicts with the local Powhatan Confederacy. Despite these hardships, Jamestown survived, thanks in part to the leadership of Captain John Smith and the introduction of tobacco cultivation, which became a profitable export. A few years later, in 1620, the Pilgrims arrived on the Mayflower and founded Plymouth Colony in present-day Massachusetts. They sought religious freedom and established a community based on cooperation, aided by Native Americans like Squanto who taught them how to farm local crops and survive the harsh winters. The relationship between Native Americans and European settlers was complex and varied widely. Some tribes forged alliances with newcomers, trading goods and knowledge, while others resisted encroachment and were forced off their ancestral lands. The introduction of European tools, firearms, and animals dramatically changed native societies. Horses, first brought by the Spanish to the Americas, transformed life on the Great Plains, enabling tribes like the Comanche and Sioux to hunt more efficiently and travel greater distances. Religion played a central role in colonization. Missionaries, particularly from Spain and France, sought to convert indigenous peoples to Christianity. Spanish missions in the Southwest and California were designed to both educate and control native populations, often imposing European customs and suppressing traditional beliefs. In New England, English Puritans aimed to create a city upon a hill, a society guided by their religious principles. While some Native Americans embraced aspects of European religion, many resisted cultural assimilation, striving to maintain their traditions. Economic motivations were equally important. Colonies relied on agriculture, fur trading, and resource extraction. Tobacco, rice, and indigo became key crops in the southern colonies, often grown on plantations worked by enslaved Africans, introducing a tragic and enduring chapter in American history. In the northern colonies, small farms, fishing, and trade formed the backbone of the economy. Cities like Boston, New York, and Philadelphia grew as centers of commerce, blending European, African, and Native American influences. Disease, however, remained one of the most significant and tragic consequences of European arrival. Smallpox, measles, and influenza decimated indigenous populations, who had no immunity to these foreign illnesses. Entire communities were wiped out, leading to social disruption and weakening the ability of native nations to resist European expansion. This demographic collapse reshaped the Americas, altering the balance of power and paving the way for European dominance. Conflict was inevitable. Wars between colonists and Native Americans erupted across the continent. In New England, the Pequot War and later King Philip's War were fueled by disputes over land, resources, and cultural differences. In the Southeast, Spanish, French, and English settlers often fought with native tribes over territory and trade control. Despite these conflicts, Native Americans also demonstrated remarkable resilience, adapting to new technologies, forming strategic alliances, and preserving their cultures in the face of immense pressure. Colonization also brought profound social and cultural changes. European ideas about governance, law, and property reshaped societies. The English introduced representative assemblies, local governments, and written legal codes. Education became a priority in some colonies, with schools teaching reading, writing, and religious instruction. At the same time, European colonists maintained traditions from their homelands, creating a hybrid culture that reflected both Old World heritage and New World challenges. The impact of the Age of Exploration extended beyond the Americas. It connected continents in what historians call the Columbian Exchange, a vast transfer of plants, animals, ideas, and technologies between Europe, Africa, and the Americas. Corn, potatoes, tomatoes, and cacao enriched European diets, while horses, cattle, and wheat transformed the landscape and economy of the New World. Unfortunately, this exchange also included enslaved people and diseases, leaving a complex legacy that shaped the modern world. By the mid-17th century, colonies were growing and evolving. Settlements expanded inland, agriculture became more sophisticated, and trade networks flourished. Despite the hardships, the colonies developed distinct identities, blending European, Native American, and African influences. These interactions would set the stage for future conflicts, alliances, and the eventual struggle for independence. The Age of Exploration and Colonization was a period of discovery, opportunity, and upheaval. It was a time when explorers mapped unknown territories, settlers established new communities, and Native Americans faced unprecedented challenges. It was a story of courage and resilience, innovation and exploitation, and above all, of profound change. Understanding this era helps us see the roots of modern America, a continent shaped by centuries of encounters, exchanges, and enduring cultural legacies. From the early voyages of Columbus to the founding of Jamestown and Plymouth, the Age of Exploration and Colonization transformed the Americas. It brought new ideas, technologies, and challenges, forever altering the lives of those who lived on this land. The stories of this era, both inspiring and tragic, remind us that the history of America is a story of adaptation, survival, and the complex interactions between peoples across continents.